that we've said the worst things. But I just wanted to get a few things straight.
Welcome into Box Office Quarterbacks for a really busy night for us, Ahmed. We have not one, but two HBO powerhouse shows ending. This will be our discussion on Succession, which came to an end tonight after 4 seasons, 40 episodes, and a bunch of drama in its final goodbye, where the person you were thinking that was going to take the crown at the end did not take it. I don't think anybody saw Tom Wambsgans, of all people, becoming the CEO with a lot of asterisks attached to him. But there's so many emotional things attached to this episode. What were your initial reactions after watching this hour and a half finale?
So I think you're mistaken in that maybe a lot of people were hoping we would see a certain somebody become the crowned successor, but I think it was always set up to be Tom. In fact, if you go back and watch the first episode, that was the hope, in that they would eventually take over as the power couple. Tom would be the CEO. And somehow, some way, it happened. Of course, there were a lot of skeletons and bodies that were burned along the way.
Yeah, and all those skeletons came out tonight in this series finale. Everything that was hidden at the end of the first season, Kendall being involved in the death of that waiter at Shiv's wedding, comes back with 20 minutes left of this series, and that plays the role in Shiv switching sides at the last second, agreeing to have the company sold to Gojo and Lucas Matson, and the siblings are all left in a fractured place at the end of this series. And I really thought that it was a bittersweet ending, but a fitting ending to everything that we've seen from 4 seasons of this show. Shiv still got a piece of the pie. She still has a little bit of the power there. Kendall is left with nothing, and Roman, who was just falling apart at the end of this
Is back to
series,
where he started.
he's just, I think he's free of the life, and I think that's probably the most beneficial and cathartic thing for him. So I really think that Roman was probably the big winner out of all of this when everything is said and done.
Yeah, he definitely was initially very apathetic towards the idea of being a successor. But then when the opportunity sort of came along, it was like, maybe I could. And we started to see he does have a sort of bloodlust for being a CEO. But, and even at the very end, he's crying about it, like, why isn't it me? But whenever, cards on the table, he can't, it's hard for him to make decisions. He does not like being put under pressure. And we've seen whenever he's in leadership positions, he crumbles under pressure. He fucks up very, very badly. Lives are lost.
Yes. The shuttle incident in particular, where he just kind of goes back to doing what he was doing. But back to the finale, I think you had everything in here that you wanted. You had like perfect mixes of humor, of like drama and everything. I really loved when they met at the Roy kids, the 3 main Roy siblings meet at their mom's house, and they're just kind of anointing Kendall CEO. And there's that moment in the kitchen where they're like, you need a meal fit for a king, and they blend up a bunch of crap in a blender. I thought that was hilarious. I also loved that their mom's husband and his friend tried to pitch them to buy Waystar at the last second. I thought that was funny. And it was just so random. They just like, would they print like a bunch of presentation points out at Kinko's before that, and then here we
It
are.
was so annoying. Their mom sucks so hard.
Yeah.
She, I think, is one of the worst because she tries to play, dumb and innocent, but she's clearly not on the kid's side the entire time. We saw that at the end of season 3, where she's like in it for herself. And that's why Logan and her were a perfect match at one point.
Yeah. And then after that, the kids are a united front. You go to Logan turned Connor's penthouse, where it's revealed that Tom is going to be the CEO of the company. You get that one last scene with Logan Roy, and I was wondering how they were going to bring Logan back in the finale, because I don't think you could have ended this show without something from him. And just having like a dinner that was recorded, I thought was a perfect moment for the kids to reflect on what's at stake here and whose company it was and who built this thing up. So I really did like that moment as well.
Well, and that's we talked about something a while back, that did they announce Logan's death too soon? And I've just constantly been thinking about that, because the show is clearly missing something without Brian Cox there. And one thing I noticed, though, is because his presence was so larger than life, there's a reason why he kept fucking with the kids by promising each one of them a piece of the pie, but really none of them were going to get it. And he straight up told them all, "You all, it's not your fault. I spoiled you all."
Yeah. And they even said it in this episode where Kendall says that Logan promised him the company when he was 7 years old, and Roman says that he was the last person promised the company. And it was never going to work with that dynamic. I think the only way for this to end somewhat happy was the result that we did get, where Gojo takes over the company and Kendall and Roman are out, because it's just a lot of egos. Because it took them,
I think,
5 years to get to the point to where they're like, hey, Kendall should be the guy.
yeah. Well, and I think Shiv was probably the most like considered for the role, and ruined everything during that dinner. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like she definitely really hitched her wagon to the wrong person. Well, for one, the Matson stuff was never going to end well with her, because he made all these promises that you knew weren't going to go through. And Tom, Tom is such a yes man that, like, when Matson tells him, he's like, hey, I want to sleep with Shiv, and I know she wants to sleep with me too. I was like, and this fucker is still going to work with him after that whole power play at the dinner. So
Yeah.
there were some crazy Tom and Shiv moments throughout this entire last season. The balcony scene, everything, like when the pregnancy was revealed, and then for them to get together at the end as a power couple, is it definitely interesting.
Yeah, and it begs the question: who of all the siblings has the most healthy relationship? Connor will argue. We haven't even talked about Connor, but
I feel
Connor.
bad for Connor.
Oh yeah, same here. But also, fuck him.
Yeah.
But no, for sure, I do feel bad for Connor, because even though he's the firstborn, he feels like the stepchild. You know, the way he's overshadowed, overlooked. And this is why he overcompensates with these big, heinous dreams of becoming president, or that wife, his wife, is a successful playwright, or that she's capable of being a playwright.
Yeah, and the last scene with Connor and Willa I thought was hilarious, because they're like, hey, Mencken might not become president after all, and it looks like you're going to be stuck with Connor anyway. And she's like, oh my God. Like, it was like a look of horror on her face. But
Yeah.
that was pretty funny. The whole last 20 minutes of this show are fantastic, though. Some of the best TV, best dialogue, best everything that you can get in a series finale. The whole lead up to the boardroom with everybody rushing into the Waystar headquarters, and the vote, like, they made this vote so tense. And then the standoff between the three Roy siblings in that adjacent conference room was just fantastic.
Oh, I was losing my shit. I was like, Shiv, what the fuck? Again? A fucking again? But, in the behind the scenes at the very end of the episode, the creator, Jesse Armstrong, kind of talked about how, like, we think Shiv has learned her lesson from season 3 after seeing Tom side with Logan. And now this is the opportunity where she can not fuck this up again. She's gonna, and we know she's always out to get for herself. Yeah, she cares about her brothers, but she cares about herself more. And Tom, Tom's out for his own because he knows he can't trust anybody. He fucking learned he can't even trust Greg.
Oh my God, Greg. See, there was a internet rumor going around where people thought Greg was going to be the CEO at the end of everything.
Yeah, I saw that. I was like, what the hell? That's not going to happen.
I'm so happy it wasn't Greg.
Was it Time Magazine that said? Yeah, Time Magazine that said it. Hey, Time, you were wrong.
No way Greg can run a company. He can barely tie his own shoes.
He
like when he used Google Translate to translate what they were talking about from Swedish, I was like super proud of him. I was like, "Oh, Greg, he had some common sense."
Yeah, no, we've seen pockets of Greg and his character development where he is getting some cojones. I mean, we saw that firsthand whenever Logan was asking to be roasted, and he's like, even though he's the most nervous, he's like, hey, Logan, where are your kids? On your big day, where are your fucking kids? How about that? It's like, okay, damn, let him have it. But no, I'm glad it wasn't Greg, and I think that would have been a really big stretch. It would have been Game of Thrones all over again.
That's what I was thinking, which I haven't watched much of Game of Thrones, but I've read all the plot summaries, and it would have been very.
I binge watched the crap out of it. Like I think I finished the entire series in like 4 or 6 months. Yeah. I binge watched this show. I had been meaning to watch it, but I just never got around to it. And then when I saw how much buzz it was picking up, I was like, okay, I got to make time to watch it. But I finally did, and I'm glad I did. I'm glad I caught up when I did. But I would have been just as pissed as everybody else, if the outcome wouldn't have come out the way I would hope we had hoped.
It was, I would think, best case scenario for everybody is I think how we came out of this. I did think like they were taking the pictures in the boardroom when the deal is done, and I thought Kendall was going to jump off the building at the end. Like I was waiting for it to happen. Just because you see him get into the elevator, and I was like, this is going to end very tragically, but he didn't. Thank God he just watched the sunset.
Well, and they foreshadow it twice when he says, I could die. This might be it for me. And of course we saw, that scene where he was in the pool and he almost took his own life despite his denials. But I don't think he was going to be able to off himself anyway, because there was that security guard who was kind of just watching him from afar.
His dad's best friend is now his new best friend. So that's how that ended.
It has to be. Yeah. And I totally would have liked to see Kendall have a happier development, but sadly, every time he does show promise, it's like, no, you're still the same guy, and that's why he was never able to fill into his father's footsteps.
With Kendall now, I just feel like he's going to try to start his own media company, like at the beginning of episode 1 of season 4, where they're starting the 100 or whatever the hell that was. I just think that's his path.
It's got to be, but it's not going to be as successful, and because they're all degenerates, they're all fucked up, and that's why it's so hard to pick a favorite character.
Well, we're going to do it. We are going to rank them. And we didn't have much thought to it because I kind of sprung this on Ahmed right now, but I do think that Kendall is the best character in this show. I think he's the most complex character. I think it was his story at the end of everything. I think when it comes to ranking who the iconic person is in this show, it is going to be him. So he is my number one. Shiv is number two. Roman number three. Connor is surprisingly number four. He is hilarious. And five, I think I am going to put Greg. So I have a Roy family sweep when it comes to
Oh,
that. I
you
like
and I have
Logan
a
Roy
little bit,
too. I do like Logan.
Fuck off!
Hey, fuck off!
No, honestly, Logan was multidimensional. He was just very misunderstood, and that's something Brian Cox talked about in many interviews. And I don't know. I know what it is. I've been around so many people that are like Logan Roy, um, people that are very close to me. They are, I wouldn't say as brutal, but they have that pathos in them where they're like, this is how they are. They're very forceful by nature because they had to grow up hard. They had to struggle. And so when you have offspring in your life that is like, why can't you just pick me? It's like, fuck you. It's my company. I can do whatever the fuck I want. And
Yeah.
also, who the hell do you think you are that you're just gonna come up here and demanding shit just because you think it's your fucking birthright? You know what I mean? And that's why I loved in season 3, episode 9, where he just lets them have it. He's like, "Oh no, you have a majority, but you're fucking playing toy soldiers. You come here guns a blazing, and now your guns have turned into sausages." Because that's the right thing to say. The goal was for him to always have his kids run the show, but when he realizes he spoiled them, I've got my notes written down, so I'm not like fucking around. He's there, that one episode so when he tells uh, Kendall that you're not a killer, just looks him in the eyes and tells him, you're not a killer. You're smart, but you just don't have it in you. And then when he asks Roman, how much is a glass or a gallon of milk? And Roman's just kind of like looking around like, what the fuck does that matter? This is a question that members of the media will ask wealthy folks just to kind of see if they have any humility. Ricky Gervais, talked about that, where, people will always ask him, how much is a pint of milk? And he's like, I don't know, but here's $1,000. Why don't you go get me some fucking milk? And of course, Shiv, she had that moment until she realized she fucked it up, and because Logan doesn't like to be pushed. And of course, he was disappointed in Jerry because of Roman being a degenerate and him thinking that, oh, maybe Jerry is the only one that doesn't have her head up her ass. Well, no, turns out she's just as much trying to do a power move anyway, but not if it involves this shit. I'll be damned if anybody else here is, having affairs on the down low.
Yeah. That is still the funniest episode when Roman accidentally sends a dick pic to Logan.
Yeah.
Oh man, what a ride.
Well, so Logan is definitely my favorite character. Then Kendall, obviously, because he's exhibiting more attitude. He's stronger in his confidence, but he's still figuring out how to go his own way. Roman is another one. He's definitely still a man child, but oh my god, Kieran Culkin played the fuck out of this role. Kudos to him, and I hope this opens up more roles for him. But this guy, wow, it felt like with the death of Logan that he was back into his adolescent stage. No matter how much he tries to, act like he doesn't give a fuck, he clearly does, and that's what makes him the most human. But he masks it with this playboy-like attitude.
Yeah, and just his breakdown was great at the end of this season, where you did see that humility and just him acting like a real person. I really like that.
Yeah, Connor was cool, but I've got Tom on my list. Tom, I think, is the most relatable because he's kind of got the same story as Logan, except without the brutal force. His way of fighting is just by being the yes man and acting like he knows nothing. Like, oh, okay, yes, boss, but really these are all power moves, and that's because that's the role he knows how to play. He's not the scary looking guy with that friendly face, but that's how he survived, and now, he, long live the king.
Yeah, it was a crazy ending. Uh, Great series overall. I think I know what we're going to give it in our ranking scale, but we're going to do it anyway. I will give you the honor, my friend. What will you give Succession?
Well, definitely a Hall of Fame, but I will put an asterisk on it because it's such an abstract show that not a lot of people will get it. There are a lot of subtle things that you really have to pay attention to. Um, a lot of people don't like talky dramas, so if you're looking for just powerful dialogue, then this is Hall of Fame. But if you're looking for Game of Thrones without the murder and gore, this is the show for you.
Yeah, we got one major death in 4 seasons, and it was so effective when it did happen.
Yeah.
This is a Hall of Fame show. This is one of my favorite shows of all time now. But obviously, I got to sleep on it. I think this is the best, like, character-driven drama of all time. I don't think it is the best, like, show of all time. I think Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul are still gonna like be on top for me, and I still need to get around to The Sopranos and The Wire, but for me right now, I think this is sitting at number 3 for me, and that's high praise for this show. I can't recommend it enough. Anything else you want to add before we go watch Barry?
Just with all due respect to everybody, fuck off.
Yeah, let's fuck off one more time.
No, but subscribe to our shit and don't fuck off.
Yeah, please
Brian
don't do
Cox,
that.
subscribe to us. We love you.
Yes. All right. Well, this has been part 1 of our HBO finales. I am Jeff. That's my friend Ahmed. We will see you guys very soon for Barry. See you guys later.
Or if you're watching this on YouTube, just click the next video.
Click the next video. Yes.